Hey there, this is a taillight removal and install on a 3rd gen Acura TL. This happens to be a 2007 3.2 liter base model. Putting in the Type S taillights. You can look up and see fitment. There's a lot of crossover between the different models. I think any 3rd gen taillight will fit any model. We'll get to it. Most instructions have you pull off the whole rear bumper. You can do that. That's a good way to do it, but it's a pretty big hassle. I do it here with just a couple of screws and fasteners and just kind of pulling the bumper away to give you access to the 2 bolts underside the tail light. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is remove, there's 3 Phillips head screws, 1, 2, one more on the bottom to get this mud flap feature off. There's a bracket that holds it on. The goal here is actually to get to this fastener between the bumper and the rest of the body there. So if you can get to that conveniently, but to avoid taking the wheel off, and it's just 3 Phillips head screws. Now I can get to the bottom of that one pretty easy. Here's a view of that underside screw, just under that guy right there. And for these 2 screws, I find just one of those little 1/4-inch ratchets on the side with a Phillips bit. Lets you get in nice and easy. Gives you the clearance behind the tire to not have to mess with anything. So now that you've pulled off that mud flap, there's just, if you just undo the 1 screw on top of that metal bracket, you can push that out of the way to get to the underside of the screw that's holding the bumper up. Now in my case, these bolts were pretty corroded and pain to get to, so use a good screwdriver, put some pressure on and make sure you don't strip the head. Now this is the driver's side, just to show you. This is the side I've already taken off. So this is that bolt we just undid over there. Here you can see there's some plastic blocking that's actually fastened to the body. So when you're pulling this, you want to pull out towards the outside of the car. Don't pull back yet. That'll help you just get this bumper off. There's no all those clips just popped off with the right thing. None of them broke, so they're good clips. Just kind of be gentle and tug and make sure you're paying attention. Before you do that though, actually come to the back of the car. You'll see a little cover there, and there's a 10mm bolt. I already pulled this one out, but pull that because that gives you, that'll let the bumper pull away from the back once it's ready, but that way that's not fighting you as you try and undo the edge here. Go. Okay. Don't worry, that's not breaking, that's just dirt and gunk falling down. So that's off there. And that will now give you access to those 2 10mm bolts right there. We'll pull those out. Now here I'm just using a deep socket 10mm 1/4-inch drive with an extender. Make sure you get fully seated on those bolts, because mine had to get cranked a little bit, and the bumper will try and push you cockeyed onto the head of the bolt. So you want to make sure you're not going to strip those or round them off. So make sure you're pushed on real good. Now in the trunk you'll have these fasteners here. You just untwist those, and then there's a plastic clip. Kind of pop the center out and then pull the whole clip. I did the same thing. I'm doing both taillights. So if you don't need to do both, you only have to do one. If you're just replacing your bulb, actually, this is how you'd access it. So you undo that plastic retention clip and these knobs that hold your nets. There's only, if you just do one of each, then you can pull back the liner, and the top portion is your bulb. The bottom clip is for your LEDs. This one twists to pull out and access, so don't mess with trying to undo the clip or anything. Just grab it and twist it counterclockwise. The bottom one we'll have to undo, and that one you just pinch and remove the connector. Now there's 4 8mm nuts. You got to take off. Those bolts are actually attached to the taillight assembly, so yeah, pull the nut off, make sure you don't drop it, and then we'll pull the taillight out. Now, if you don't have any body damage, you know, everything's square how it should be, this should pull right out, you know, pretty easily. You can't do it with one hand because you got to pull kind of straight, but you can see how loose it is already. I can push on those bolts from the back, maybe, and it's like almost ready to fall out. And there you go, it's out. And that's the bracket. We pulled those 2 10mm bolts off. You could technically, you know, if you undo that Phillips screw, but there's 2 plastic pins that align it, so then to pull the taillight out you have to kind of lift it up and out. So I think those 10mm are the way to go, but if you really don't want to remove your bumper, there might be a way to get in there, but this wasn't too painful. Now we're gonna take the taillights that I got. You swap this LED panel, so the gray portion there has 4 smaller Phillips head screws. Pull those out and I'll show you how to get that connector out too. The connector's got a retention clip that it sits on, and the wire comes and attaches right there. So pull those 4 screws out. Here you'll want to take this and just lift it up. It's not, at least mine's old enough that it's not really adhered or anything. Just kind of pull it up around those, and depending on what your other tail light came with, you can reuse this, or if it already has a gasket, don't worry about it. But you need to get this connector undone and give yourself some slack on this cable so that you can pull this out and then undo the harness, because then you're going to reuse this cable in your new taillight assembly. There's a clip here and you know, mirror one on the other side, so you'll want to pop those up as you pull this out. So here you can see the clip that this rides on, so you just kind of angle it, tug it, get a flathead in there if you need to, and then pull this harness out. It'll be clipped in, and now that gives you the slack that you need to pull this out and undo the clip in there. So I kind of just pushed from this end while I pulled this way. This connector there, just push your thumb down on it, pull it out. And here you just want to feed this out, turn it the way you need to. Easier with 2 hands. So this is the new taillight. You want to feed that harness and have it come out of here. There's routing. If you look at your original taillight, there's some arrows that show you it comes down around, gets clamped down there, and then it gets set on that clip that we pulled it off of. So just if you paid attention when you took it off, just do the same thing in reverse, and then I just use a pair of needle nose to pull it up through that hole there. This one was a pretty tight fit. I thought I was gonna have to shave that clip down, but it'll go. So just shove that on there and route that, push it down in. There it is, coming up where you need to have it to clip into the LED assembly. Then you clip your LED in with that same connector, then you'll slide it over, put those 4 screws back in. And if you want to make things easier, actually plug that in before you seat that cable, because then you've got more room to work with it. Hindsight for the win there. And you want to make sure to move the bracket over from your old taillight to your new ones. It's just that single Phillips head screw there. Then you'll just slide it back in, reverse the process, put your 8mm nuts on, put the bulbs back in, do those 2 10mm bolts down there, get the bumper all lined back up, and if there's anything weird that I come across, I'll add that here at the end. Before you go too crazy putting everything back together, plug in your tail light and your brake light or LED bulbs and make sure everything is working. It's a good chance to just swap out your taillights if you got one that's out, or your bulbs. But yeah, just don't put the whole thing back together and realize that you dorked up a connector or something. Nice. And there you have it. There's the new taillights. Those Type S ones are sweet. Probably replace those markers on this side if they've got a smoked version of them, but like and comment for absolutely 0 more videos like this one.